Hello everyone, it's me Elis. Happy New Year and welcome to 2021. Here in British Columbia, Canada, we are now entering the coldest months of winter, and it's time to ensure that our plants get the best winter care possible. Like with all houseplants tips, there are always variables to consider. So these are tips that work for me in my climate and in my home and the environment that my home provides for my plants. Before we get to these tips, make sure to subscribe, like, share it with your friends, leave me a comment. I would really appreciate that. Thank you. Let's start with watering. You need to cut way back on watering in the winter months for numerous reasons. First of all, most plants aren't actively growing during the winter time, so they need less water. The temperatures are generally cooler, so that means the water won't evaporate as quickly as they would in the summertime, which can cause plants to be in overly saturated soil, which will lead to root rot. British Columbia winters are quite humid, so you won't need as much water. And when you need to water your plants in the wintertime, make sure to just water them in small amounts. Make sure the water is lukewarm or a little bit more than lukewarm during winter or in the coldest months of the year. For example, I don't generally soak my plants like I would usually do when you need to water them properly. Plants that require their soil to be constantly moist, like the myrtle, make sure that they are in a really warm place, and I'll tell you why. When it's cold outside, you have to sometimes open doors and windows, and there will be drafts that get in there, which will cool the moist soil quicker than a dry soil, which can shock your plant. We are now past the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere, which means the days are getting longer, but we've had pretty short days, which means our plants are not getting enough sunlight or the desired sunlight that they require. I recommend using grow lights as supplementary lights. I don't think there's ever going to be anything that is better than the natural sun when it comes to your plants. From what I can gather, using grow lights will actually help your plants absorb the little light that they're getting better. Grow lights, especially cheap grow lights, aren't necessarily the perfect substitution, but they help a lot. The grow lights I generally use are purple grow lights or a combination of red and blue grow lights, because those spectrums promote stem growth and foliage growth, but I also make sure that I buy bulbs or lights that are full spectrum, even though they are predominantly blue and red, which makes up for purple. If you don't have grow lights, you can always move your light hungry plants closer to a south-facing window or a southeast-facing window to get most of the light. But be careful, since it's cold outside, the windows do get colder, which means the air temperature around that area is colder. Another important tip when it comes to light: clean your windows. Clean all that grub and dub and blub off your windows, because you need to maximize the amount of light that will get through to them. And also, clean the foliage of your plants. Clean foliage will allow your plants to more easily absorb the natural light that is currently receiving. Just use water and a gentle cloth or a microfiber cloth. At most, just use water with some plant-based soap. I don't understand people that are rubbing all of this mayo, olive oil, shine garbage on your plants. Let the natural shine of the plant come through. It shouldn't be artificial. And also, that shit can clog the pores of your plant, leading them not to be able to literally breathe. Temperature and humidity. Try to maintain a steady home temperature for your houseplants, especially in the rooms where your houseplants are. Tropical plants, houseplants living inside do best in a temperature of 15 to 24 degrees Celsius. Houseplants living inside actually do better when it's a little bit cooler than their natural habitat rather than being too hot. Inside, when it gets too hot, your plants can easily kind of suffocate. Fluctuations in temperature can cause your plants to kind of become confused or shocked. It's not only important to keep the air temperature steady. If you need to open a window every now and then, it's okay if there's sometimes a little bit cool air for a short period of time. It's all about keeping the soil warm because we want to keep the roots warm. Be mindful of drafts, and that's why it's a good idea, if you don't have properly insulated windows, to grab an insulation kit from Home Depot. I've even seen them at the dollar store or other hardware stores. Fluctuations in heat can kind of mess with the humidity inside of your home. Inside, we have all of our furnaces and radiators, and that will cause the air to dry out. So try and keep that as steady as possible. And that's why it's also important to provide your plants with supplementary humidity. For my calatheas, for example, I have this little humidity that I run for 12 hours a day. Other plants that are more forgiving of humidity, I'm not so worried about because my apartment is okay humidity-wise. It could be better, but it is okay. If you don't have a humidifier that can maintain the humidity levels in your home properly, or you simply can't afford one because God, they're expensive, there are some ways you can work around that. One really good way is to set up a little greenhouse, a little glass cabinet. You won't even have to necessarily have a humidifier in there because it creates its own humid atmosphere, even just by placing like a glass of water in there. Another good trick is also to place your plants on top of pebble trays. So you put pebbles in a tray and pour some water on it. But it's important, of course, that it's warm enough for the water to evaporate and that there's air circulation in your apartment for that humidity to get around. It is a really good idea during the winter time when we're trying to keep the heat in to have a fan running on very slow speed because your plants need air circulation. They need it for their roots, they need it for their soil. It just makes them feel better. And that's also one of the reasons why I always try and make sure, almost always, that my decorative pots are at least tiny bit bigger than the nursery pots that my plants are in, because that allows for that both insulation to be going on and air circulation getting in there. If you have no other choice than to leave your plant close to a cool window, there are ways to insulate your little pots. For example, you can use bubble wrap or these little plastic things here that I'm not sure what are called. You could even use newspapers. Anything that just creates a layered barrier will promote warmth around your plants and around the soil, but it won't hinder air circulation too much. Other consideration: I wouldn't recommend pruning your plants too heavily in the wintertime, except if it's just for clipping off dead leaves, dead foliage, or dead branches. That will help them not waste energy on their dead parts. And during wintertime, they're gonna need all energy they possibly can get. Fresh cuts can shock your plants in the best of times. So during wintertime, when your plant is not at 100%, it could be even worse. Even though it's wintertime, you still need to have a look out for pests. If you're not inspecting your plants and keeping an eye for them, soon as it starts to warm up, if there are any pests, they will come full force in the warmth. So keep an eye out on your plants, please. Try and avoid repotting your plants during this season, unless it's absolutely necessary. For example, if it's in a soil that is way too soggy or just way incorrect. or in case your plant is so root bound that it cannot possibly breathe. But if you are repotting your plant in this season, make sure the soil is nice and warm that you're putting it in. Make sure it's placed in a very warm spot. Make sure to kind of maintain this environment of gentle calmness and warmness so it feels not disturbed at all. Plants that you should absolutely not repot in this time of year are plants that grow from bulbs like oxalis, alocasias. Those plants, they hibernate during winter time. A lot of plants kind of hibernate, but these ones extra hibernate. So if your elephant ears look like they're dying, don't worry. They're just hibernating. Just leave them alone. Don't water them. Don't touch them. They'll come back. Those are like little bulbs, little onions that will sprout up before you can snap your fingers. Fertilization is generally not needed during winter time. I would only mildly fertilize plants during winter time that you can see are continuously growing all the time. Only mild fertilizer. Just a little bit, just a tiny boost. Other plants that to keep an eye out on, ficuses like the fiddle leaf ficus and the Ficus elastica. Those plants can be such drama queens during winter time because they might look like they're awake, but they're asleep. So just leave them alone. I hope this video was helpful and full of tips. If you have special winter care tips that you would like to share with the rest of us, please leave them down below in the comments. Also, if you have any more questions, please leave them down below in the comments and I will answer all of them. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to subscribe, follow me on my social media, and I'll see you next time. Bye.